So, good evening, everyone. The purpose of today's session is to help you with Spark tasks for assignment 2. And the way we usually do that is that first I go over a few things that is, so to speak, common questions, right? And show you another example and tell you a few things to watch for. And then I open the floor for questions. Okay, sounds good. So that's the agenda, right? And now I need to remind you that if your IBM Cloud account expires at the end of this month, immediately after the end of this session, please follow the process to get new code and apply it. Okay, we want to make sure that your account does not expire at the end of this month because it will have an impact on your future coursework. We don't want any impact. Okay.
Elena, sorry, I need to interrupt here.
Okay.
Many of them already have an account which is extended beyond June. They
Yes.
don't have to worry.
But some
you
of them...
worry just if your account will expire by end of June. If you have what, 6 months, 5 months, this is fine. You don't need to apply because you're not gonna get anything new.
Right. Yes. Okay. Now, another thing is that please do not put your credit card number. If your hours are running low, what you're gonna do? You're gonna submit the Salesforce case, and we're gonna address it individually. It's all individual, okay? But please do not put the credit card in. Now, another thing is that to avoid this, you want to stop the runtime environment before you exit because it's gonna count the capacity hours until the session times out. And I'm not quite sure about the timeout time, but you're gonna run out of hours in the no time. So here it is, right? So last semester I heard people saying that, oh, it does not count, the hours are not going down. Okay, well, which was fine. But this time it's counting the hours, it's working as expected. So please make sure you don't run out. And please do not open tickets with IBM unless we tell you to do that. And now, the email comes from the service desk, right? You want to make sure that you want to respond always. If we give you the solution and if the solution resolves the issue, please respond also. Let us know, okay? Because we cannot have a ticket without any action for more than 3 days. If the ticket is open for 3 days, no response, we have to close it, okay? Now, this is important. You want to upload the data before creating the notebook. And please do not delete the object storage. Do yourself a favor. Don't do that because when you try to, if you delete it, it does not delete completely as expected, and you won't be able to add a new one. This is a mess. Please don't do that, okay? Now, this is also important. Hopefully all of you now know that you need to select the correct environment. And at the end of last session, I showed you what you need to do if you made the mistake and selected the wrong environment. You would need to delete the notebook and you would need to stop the environment as well, okay? Ooh, what is this? I see a long post, okay. Oh, for ungraded assignment? Oh, okay. We're gonna look into that later, okay. No, the question is here about the error in the ungraded assignment. I'm gonna look at it later, okay? I'll look at it later. Okay, remind me if I forget. Okay, now, okay. Now, see this is the correct runtime environment. Right, now, let me take a look at this. And I was going to show you some of the HTML stuff or Markdown cell syntax, if you will. Now let's go ahead and here it is. And I'm gonna go ahead and open now machine learning. This is a Titanic notebook. Okay, come on. And sometimes when you open it in the edit mode, Jesus is starting the runtime environment. So it's gonna count the hours. Okay, so I need to go over this because you are asked to do the Markdown in your part 2 of the assignment, right? You're asked to do the similar markdown for the low birth weight data, right? So now if I double click here, see this? This shows that it's a heading, level 1 heading, and it's a 1 hash mark, right? Here I spelled that out for you. So if it's a 1 hash mark, it's a level 1 heading. 2 hash marks, it's a level 2 heading, right? Then in here, when you have a hyphen followed by 2 spaces, that's gonna be the menu. Well, I mean bullet points. See that this is a bulleted list. To create a bulleted list, you have a hyphen followed by the 2 spaces, right? So that's gonna be bulleted list. Here, this is a link, but the link comes to the internal part of the notebook, right? So I wrote it here. See this? A menu. This is a menu. Menu consists of the links, and links are enclosed in a bracket. Those are the internal links inside the notebook. And for each link, you have a unique session name, right? Like for example, see this one is gonna go to wherever you have this anchor, Titanic data. And in this case, it's right here. See this? Cell, this is the ID, element ID, Titanic data. And when you click on this link, it's gonna go to this section, right? So when you click on the load libraries, it's gonna go to the section over here. How do I know? Because see this, when I double click here, this is a load libraries, right? So that's an element ID, load libraries, right? And it's gonna go to whatever that element is. Okay, so you do it like this for every single section, right? Now this one here, this is an external link. See this? You have it in the brackets, right? And in the curly, in the parentheses. So basically what I did was I spelled it out for you. So in a link text, the text of the link is in the brackets, and this is the URL where the link takes you to, right? And then you've got a table. Well, I'm not sure how many of you used HTML before, but this is a syntax. This is an HTML type of syntax. So you have a table starting tag and table ending tag, right? Table, start, end. Now, what is a table? Table consists of what? Table row, right? And each table row consists of the table data, right? So you have a row and a table data, this is a cell, right? Row, cell, cell, right? But this cell is a little bit tricky. Let me run it. Look at this. You have to do this cell a little bit differently because, see, you have this guy here that spans multiple rows, right? This cell here spans multiple rows. So you have to put row span equals whatever number of rows is, right? So take a look at this. So you have in the first row, you've got the first cell with the text called variables, and it's bold, right? Then another cell, it has a bold text description. The next cell, it has this is a link, and this is an image. See, it's rather the link, right? The image URL, right? Image source, this is an image. Now, I have to say row spans 7 because it spans through 7 rows, right? And then in the next rows, I've got just 2 cells, right? Because the last cell, right? It's the third cell in the first row spans across multiple rows, right? So then in the next row, I've got the 2 cells, right? So let me run it again and show you this. Right, so this is nothing but just HTML table. See this? 3 cells, but because, 4 cells, sorry, 4 cells, right? 4 cells. So 1, 2, 3, and this is a cell 4. It spans across multiple rows, right? So the next row, I just defined 3 cells because I got, see, this big cell goes through several rows. Row span. Remember in HTML, we've got row span and column span, right? And here, this is just you specify the width and just the font, okay? Now, you might need to play around with this and the font size. This is basically just the HTML, okay? And I wanted to went over this because sometimes I get this question when people start working on things. Now, most of the errors that you're gonna get are located in a parser function. So I need to go over what's going on in a parser function for the Titanic data, right? To make sure that everyone understands this. So here it is. So here I define something called the label document. And label document is going to take the ID, right? It's going to take person info and label. So let me see what happened. I'm a bit lost. So we need to learn HTML. Well, no, you don't need to learn much HTML, but you will need to create this table of contents. What you could do is, if you want to, you could copy and make some edits. It's not like heavy HTML, but it just if you want to create it's to create a nice table. You don't have to have an image, but if you wanted to look at like this, right? If you wanted to look at like this, so I'm just going over it. You don't need to know all of the styles and all of this, but I'm just telling you how this is set up here. So table opening tag, table closing tag, right? Table row closing tag. And then every cell, it's a TD, table data, etc. And the B stands for both. So what you could do is this, you could take this, copy paste, right? And then edit with different cell content. No, don't worry, you don't need to learn HTML. However, if you would like to, I'll be more than happy to help. But I mean, does it make sense? Let me know. And you're gonna have the slides, but this is a markdown, okay? Yeah, this is a markdown, so you need to put the markdown cells. Okay, no problem. Yes, but I mean, I try to show what is done and how it's done, right? So this is a code. So now if I scroll down, I'm defining the label document in here. And what this is doing is this. It's taking, this is going to be the ID, right? The row ID. Here are going to be my my independent variables, and this is going to be dependent. Okay, let me see if you're interested. Oh, where you find this image URL, Sam? Well, you just look for the you're just going to look for the picture. You're going to just find the picture online, right? And just add the URL. You can do, well, you do the Google, you can do Google search perhaps for the image and just add this, like, see if I take this guy right here, if I do Control C, and if I go to the new browser tab, if I go Control V, right, this is gonna give me, this is a picture, right? And I can do something similar. I can search for the low birth weight picture, right? Usually students put a picture of the little baby if they want to, right? So this is just, it's an external link for this image. And you can also search something like low birth weight picture, right? Something like that. And then you can do you just do regular search for the images, right? Images, and then you're gonna get the URL. So see this, for example, this is an image here, and you can just take this URL of this image, something like that. Okay, I hope it makes sense. You just do the search and then take the image URL. It does not matter, it can be any image. All right, this is what I was doing. I believe I did the Google search. All right, okay, so this is just the image source. And what you'll do is to just copy this and you're going to replace with your URL, right? HTML is allowed about reuse. Okay, no problem. Now, here it is. So what are we doing here is we need to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what we are predicting and what are the predictors. Okay, so basically what's happening is that I'm reading the file, I'm reading the data from CSV file one line at a time, and I send one line at a time to the parser function. and it's gonna put every single row in this something called label document. The first part is given to be unique identifier, what identifies my record uniquely, if you will. This is a concatenation of all independent variables, sorry. And then this is a dependent one. Now here in this line of code, do not rename this label. Keep this label as is, because if you do rename it, you're gonna get an error. So this parameter cannot be renamed, okay? Now here, what this is doing is this, well, you may find it helpful to do this. List all of these columns in your data, right? And in their position. Remember that in Python, the position numbering starts at 0. So name is in position 0, P class is position 1, etc. That will help you a lot. Because now I know that my target is in position 4, right? So here I'm just checking if this is greater than 0, right, or 1, then I want to set the label to 1.0, otherwise 0.0, right? Survive or did not survive. So this is going to be what? Survive. This is my label, right? It goes into the sort parameter, right? This parser returns the label document. This is an ID, which is, what is an ID in here? It's a person ID. It's in position number 5. And in here, this is a delimited list of predictors, right? What are we using as predictor? We listed here. And this is a label document that gets created. But something else that's going on in here is that when you call this function, remember this, in your file, the first row is what? The column names, right? Do we want the column names to be part of the data that we are analyzing? No, right? So what you need to do is you need to remove the row. We want to skip the row with the column names. How do we identify the row that contains the column names? You have something like this, name. Name is the name of one of the columns, right? So if the data row contains the word name, then we want to skip that row. That is what basically doing. You want to remove the column headings because you don't want the column headings to be part of the data that you're actually analyzing, okay? Just remember that part. Then remember that back from your other coursework, while we're splitting the data into training and test set, right? And if 80%, 20% does not work as well, you could try 70 and 30, right? Because, well, I remember at least in data 630, right? We use 70 and 30. You can try that too. But here for the testing purposes, it's checking the number of rows in the training set, number of rows in the test set, and then it's building the logistic regression model and it's evaluating the model, right? Doing a RAC curve plot and etc. Right? So, and then here, see that this is a markdown cell. I need to run it. When I run this cell, see, this is how it's gonna look like for me, okay? But no, don't worry, there's no heavy HTML in here. Although sometimes it's a language that is good to know because most of you, once in a while, you create your own page, right? Okay, now let's see, this isn't here. And this is a parser function. I spelled it out for you in here, right in the pipeline. I just explained it here. Okay. Now, for part 2 tips is this. We want to make sure that the data frame, the columns in the data frame have correct data type. So when you read the data, make sure that you read this line, option infer schema true. Otherwise, if you don't put this line, then when you calculate the averages, right, for the age perhaps, then you're gonna have the average of the ASCII value of an age instead of average of an age, right? So you want to make sure that all your numbers are correct. If you see that the minimum is greater than the maximum, that something is wrong, right? Now, most of the code errors happen in the parsing function. So you want to check that function. Make sure that you identify the unique identifier correctly, that you're using correct variable as a target, right? And then you cannot just do this. You cannot plug in part2 data into Titanic code without editing. You may reuse some code such as the part for the table. Well, the reason I'm using the table in there is that I thought it looks nicer, that you have a list of columns and then you have a nice picture. Picture is optional, but it's good to try, right? It's good to try because, well, you want to be practicing. Sometimes you may need to create your own notebook, right? So I guess it's an opportunity to practice if you like. Okay. Now, and what I did for you, I prepared another example with Framingham data. And that example is a little bit more advanced. And I'm going to let you have the code for that. Well, because look, in your Titanic data, you have you have different data types. The variables have different data types in there, right? Categorical and numeric. There are certain things that we can do in Framingham data and also in the low birth weight data that we could not do in Titanic data. It has to do with the variables data types. Like I gave you an example of histograms plots. See this? So this is, I'm just showing an example of what you can do for your assignment. Instead of doing a plot for one variable at a time, I'm gonna give you the code here where you can loop through all of your fields, right? You loop through all your fields and you want to build a nice, you want to build all histograms, right? So this is all columns in the data. And I know how many columns I have here, right? So I'm saying this figure size, right? It's just the size. And now in here, it's gonna loop through all my columns and just gonna add it as a subplot, okay? I'm just gonna add it as a subplot. But what I have to do is, in here, I created this function, right? And it takes this data frame, Ponder data frame as an input. It takes a list of the, this is a vector of column names. Then I have number of rows and number of columns because I want this to look at 6 rows and 3 columns. And I'm just doing all of them together. See, you can, if you want to, you can do the histogram for one at a time, but just as a bonus, I'm giving you this code so that you can do the plots for all together. But the only difference you're gonna have, you have different number of columns, right? You're gonna have a different number of rows because the number of variables is different, right? And again, for this to work, you have to make sure that you are reading correct data types, right? And another bonus is that I'm giving you the code for the correlation heat map. So you have to import the matplot library, and you also need to import the seaborn library. And you have to do, see this, and this is the seaborn as end heat map, right? Then here, you want to, if you specify annotation equals true, then you're gonna show the actual value of the correlation. And this is the line width, right? So you want to, so this is basically how to do this. Well, because one of the, some questions in the assignment ask if the method is suitable, right? If you are an A student or if you want to aim for a higher grade, you could go ahead and look at the correlations. Well, it doesn't say that you're required to look at the correlations, but it's something that, you know, it's one way to go above and beyond, if you will, right? You can reuse the code and apply. This is how you would show the correlation. Because remember that if you're discussing the naive Bayes method, you want to look if the predictors are independent from each other, etc., right? So you can do this nice correlation. And the color code specifies, color code tells you the strengths, right, of the correlation. Remember that the values are between 1 and -1 usually, right? So here it is. And you've got, see, here you specify if you want to show the actual values. And I said true, then line width, all right? And this is a figure size. You can play around depending on how many columns you have, right? And I also wrote down how to save the notebook as a PDF, right? So again, this is my output. Suppose I'm done, right? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do download as, and in here, I'm gonna say HTML, and then I'm going to convert my HTML to PDF, okay? Now here, okay, see that? It's here. So now I can open the file location if I want to, and then I can just do this. I open the file in the browser, and then I can do this Control P, or in Mac, I believe it's Command P, and it's gonna print. And then I select PDF and I save it, okay? This is what you need to do. Now, earlier, one of you mentioned the error. Let me see, what's the error? Chat, let me go back to the chat. Okay, so, let me see, number of passengers who survived. Okay, I will have to look at this. Okay? Uh, would you mind to submit the case? I'm gonna look at this. So one of you told me that there is an error in okay, I need to know what an error is. Okay. Evans, I need to know what an error message is. Okay. I need to see the actual screenshot of an error to be able to oh yes, absolutely, thank you, no problem. So what Evans is referring to is this. In your assignment, uh, oh, thank you. Okay. So in your assignment, you're working on logistic regression, right? But some of you, well, you asked as part of the assignment, you asked which alternative methods could work for the data. And what you have in here in week 5-6 course content, you have this. You have naive Bayes method for the Titanic data. So if you want to, you can download this method. You can download this notebook and also run it and see the results, and then compare the results with logistic regression. This is another way to go beyond. So this is Titanic method, and you get the naive Bayes implementation. But please don't run out of the hours. But if you have hours left, if you're done with the assignment, for the most part, if you have hours left, go ahead and give it a try, because, well, the way it works with the hours is that you cannot roll them over to the next month. Okay, you cannot accrue them. So you get 50 per month. If you did not use all 50, you cannot carry them over to the next month. Okay, so at some point late next Tuesday, you should see, or next Wednesday, you should see the hours reset to 50. Okay. Now, so this is a notebook, and you want to so you also want to do the same thing that you do for the logistic regression, and you want to run this, okay? You want to download this and you want to run the code, right? But I need to see what an error is to actually troubleshoot. But one of you pointed out that there is an error. I need to check, okay? Because there have been changes in the runtime environment, etc. But I believe this notebook was edited for the current Spark version, okay? Now, what else I forgot? Oh, and you might be wondering about the example I just mentioned. So I'm gonna go back here. This is an example here. Oops. You're gonna get a copy of data, and you're gonna get a notebook which has more example, this one. Okay, you're gonna get this notebook. What you would need to do is, if you want to actually check it at your leisure at some point, when you add your credentials, you want to make sure that you add this line, right? In for schema, true. Otherwise, you won't be able to do most of the visualizations in here, okay? Such as correlations. And I need to tell you that this visualization, this is a pairwise plot. This takes some time to run. So if you ever try to execute it, it takes like maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It took for me. But this is just to show you that you can do the pairwise plot, something similar to what you did in R before. That's a correlation thing, right? And for this notebook, I'm going to give you with the output. I'm going to give you with the output, so you don't need to run it to save you some of the time, right? And this data also unbalanced, because if you see this, if you look at the last, right, label, or whatever it is, dependent variable, you have 206, and see, this is 1138, right? So the class is unbalanced, right? So that's something very important to keep in mind when you're looking at the analysis, right? And you're also going to do the model evaluation. You want to see the area under the ROC curve. Remember this from your other coursework, right? And you want to also compare the accuracy of the test set and the accuracy of the training set, right? Because remember, what we don't want to see is this. The training set accuracy is 90%, and the test set is accuracy 60%, perhaps, right? So that what does it mean? Overfitting, right? So you have a question about overfitting. This is the review. I remember at least in data 630 you've seen it, right? Maybe data 640 also. All right. All right, so you're gonna get this notebook. It's just a bonus example for you. Okay. And see here, the parsing function is different. I've been trying different combinations and I commented that out. So see here, I have a longer list of columns. You need to do this. This will save you a lot of time. Just list all your columns and put the position number, right? So here, this data, we're predicting the 10-year risk of coronary heart disease, okay? So this is just an additional example, and I'm giving you more visualization types in here and more stuff that you can do if you want to, if you have time, right? If you have hours left, and if you try to do something a little bit beyond, right? You have some options here, okay? I'm just giving you options how you could go beyond, but please make sure that you get the minimum requirement first and then go beyond, okay? You don't want to get stuck on this stuff. And also make sure that you submit cases, okay? Now, another thing that I wanted to go over, I promised that I would do it, and I will do it, the ungraded exercise from last stuff. Okay, so let me see. I have questions. Oh, that additional notebook, Tony, I'm gonna give it to you. It's not anywhere. I'll give it to you. It's gonna be posted together with the recording. Oh, which notebook are you referring to, Tony? Are you referring to Farnham data or are you referring to naive Bayes implementation? Because if you're referring to naive Bayes implementation of the Titanic data, it's located in the course content, okay? But the Farnham data notebook, it will be given to you. Usually, well, we give it after the session because some examples in there are more advanced and I want to make sure that everybody is prepared for it before it's actually given, okay? Don't want to scare anybody. Okay, no problem. Now let me minimize, close this thing. Okay, now you had ungraded exercises last time, and I need to tell you that they're actually required because in an upcoming assignment, you're gonna see something different. You're gonna see something similar, I would say, right? Oh, okay. Do you have any other tips for? Oh, okay. The question is, Do I have any other tips for completing assignment 2? Start early, right? And then you want to make sure that you submit cases, because you know what happens when everybody submits case in the last minute. We need to take them in a order that they were received, right? Then pay close attention to the parser function, like I showed you in that example, right? I cannot just go and copy paste the parser function from my Titanic data into the Fahrenheit data. I just cannot do it this way, because if I do it, then I'm not going to get expected result. I might be getting errors, or sometimes if I don't get error, it does not mean that the code works as expected, right? So I cannot do this. And then also be careful where you call the parser, because you have to eliminate the rows with the column headings. But how do you identify the rows that contains column headings?
Just about to mention that, Yelena, that if you really want to be successful with this assignment or the set of assignments that you have with this type of code, learn about the parsing code. Trust me, if you understand that parsing code very well, 80% is done, right? Because as Yelena mentioned earlier, over the years, we've seen maximum tickets because of the error in the parsing code, or because the student has not understood that parsing code or why the parsing code is used. So please focus on that parsing code. It's a very small function, but it's a very powerful function. It is doing that data engineering kind of work for you, right? So please understand that well.
Yeah, so this is the reason why I was suggesting to do this. Over here, take your time and list the columns like this and the position. This will help you a lot, because then as you're writing the code, you can see in which position the column is, right? And remember this hash mark, it means that you have a comment. This is a code cell. Remember we talked earlier about this hash marks in a Markdown cell, right? But this is a code cell, so this is not the heading, right? So don't get confused here. And remember that you stop in your runtime environment, okay? I'll be, if I come up with more tips, I'll let you know. But mostly they're written down, right? And please start working on it. So yeah, how do we confirm? Oh, the column order. Oh, it's this. Over here, when you're doing, like in this example here, when I did this, see this in here, this print schema, see this? When I run this command, this is a data frame, I do print schema, it's gonna spit out all of my columns, right? And now I know that the column numbering starts from the 0. So patient ID is 0, right? This is a male, age, education, etc. Right? Okay, no problem. Right, so this is the reason we are doing some analysis here, because like if you do the analysis, you're going to see, first of all, you'll see which variables you have, right, which columns you have. You will see which columns are unbalanced, or perhaps if you have a column that has the same value, let's just assume if I had a country here and the country was United States for everybody, then I would probably want to exclude it from analysis, right? And honestly, if I was doing the actual graded assignment for this data set, I would probably exclude some of the columns. I would have to look at the correlations, right? Like some examples here would be if the person is a smoker and number of cigarettes per day, right? Probably I care only if it's a smoker or not. I don't care about the number of cigarettes per day, perhaps, right? It's just an example. Okay, so probably exclude number 5 and keep number 4. Well, something like that. But you do know that these two, right? So if somebody is not a smoker, of course, cigarettes per day will be 0, right? So I would probably keep one of these two. Just an example, okay, of what I would do. You would probably want to take a look at the correlations and see which ones you want to, which variables you want to exclude here, because here you've got what, 16 or 17. Well, this is dependent, so we've got what, 16, and then this is a patient ID, right? So, but well, I just labeled here the education you should exclude, but if you look at the data, you will see why. And the diabetes, it's skewed, right? Well, I was just making some notes in here as I was doing the explorations. Okay, now I hope it makes sense, right? Are we good to go? Because, yeah, I wanted to go over this. Well, a lot of you wanted to see how to do the exercises. Well, you have the graded exercise 6. That looks like this, right? Oops, let me close this. This is a graded exercise 6, where you're going to list the salary and you're going to list the number of people at each salary, right? So this is your graded exercise 6. For ungraded exercise 1, what you do is you're going to list, oops, you're going to add the department. See this? What you do is just this. You take the work you did for graded exercise, last graded exercise, copy paste, and then you also add department. But when I add the column, when I add the grouping column to the select part of the query, I need to add the same column to the group by part of the query, okay? So it's just this. You add department, and you add department to the group by, and you got your ungraded exercise 1. Guess how we do ungraded exercise 2? So we've got department salary, and here I also want to add attrition. So if I add attrition to the select clause of the query, I better add the same column to the group by of the query, right? So here, see this count star? This is the aggregate, right, function, aggregate count, sum, average, those are the aggregations. And in here, I need to list what I'm grouping by, right? If I don't put attrition, for example, here, I'm gonna get an error because I have to take all non-aggregate columns in select clause and list them in a group by clause. Well, just think of it this way. You're gonna be correct 99% of times if you do this. Take all non-aggregate columns and list them in a group by, right? So this should be easy. Well, I cannot say easy, but another thing I wanted to mention, why do we convert to uppercase? It's because the sorting is case sensitive and it's going to look at the ASCII values, right? So it's going to treat uppercase totally different from lowercase. So I want this to be case insensitive, right? I want it to be alphabetized regardless of the capitalization. So I convert this to uppercase, okay? The third exercise is a little bit of a challenge, and there are two solutions here. This was mine, and this was done by another student in the past. But this is what's going on in here. I know I have, well, this is what I want to see. I want to have one line per department, right? I don't want to have something like I do here, right? I don't want to have multiple rows for department. I want to have one line per department, okay? Oops, just one row. And I want to list in the same row, I want to list department name, how many people in that department left, how many people stayed, and the total, right? This is what I want to do. So how do I get how many people left? Well, I have a column called attrition. And if the person left, then the value in that column is going to be 1. So if I take a sum, I'm going to get how many people left, right? If I get the count, right, it's going to tell me how many people are altogether, right? And if I take the difference, count minus, well, number of people who stayed is the total number of people who worked in the department minus number of people who left, right? That was it. Alternatively, you can do the case statements, and this is what you will have to do in your next assignment. Next ones are going to be some ungraded exercises. So you could do the case statement. Oops. See what it's doing in here? It's saying this. If attrition is 0, right? So here it's trying to calculate how many people stayed. If attrition is 0, then treat it as a 1. Otherwise 0 and take a sum. So you can do a case statement here if you want to. Okay. Oh yes, of course. Looks easy after seeing the answer. Oh, yes, absolutely. But the thing is, that's the reason you got this as an ungraded exercise, because, well, we want you to know how to do that, and at the same time, we don't want this to make it graded right away. We want to give you an opportunity to practice before we actually put something like this for a grade, You know what I'm saying? So, and you're gonna get another opportunity to practice this, but you're gonna have to use a case statement in that example, because not everything is perfect, such as 1 and 0, right? It could be something like value, something like positive, negative, neutral, and you want to show one line and do the counts for each value like this, right, in one line. So you would have to use a case statement, okay? But those are just the answers. And if you did not do the ungraded exercises, you know how much you missed out, because later on, but I never say that, but later on it's gonna be something along that line. It'll come up as a graded, okay? Now, so guys, questions, please. I would like to see the questions, and I have to look into the naive Bayes thing to see what an issue is, okay? But sometimes, okay, so I would like to see questions, guys, please. This is a perfect opportunity to ask me questions. Oh, and in fact, maybe I have that naive Bayes imported already. Maybe I might, nobody knows. Okay, so let's refresh here first. Before you exit, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna go to manage environmental runtime, and you want to shut this off. You want to click on stop. Okay, so this is how you stop the environment. See this? This counter is going up and this counter is going down, right? So maybe you're lucky. Maybe I have this project. All projects. Sorry, guys. You can see that I've been doing a lot of stuff in here, right? So it might be in here. If I have it here, then you're lucky. Okay. Okay, in the law-based data set, the description list. Oh, smoking status 1, no, and 2 as yes. Okay. Oh, okay. It's a typo. Thank you for letting me know. It's a typo. Okay. If it's 0 and 1, then it's 0, 1. Okay. It's a typo in the description. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. Thank you. Is there more literature on the parsing function? Well, there is one example. There is one example that I put for you, and that specific example, it's looking at heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, and it's trying to predict if the system is working as expected. So this is another example, and the link is in the slide. So this is another pipeline example. Okay. See this? This is another example, and I put a link for you. But what you want to do is please watch this recording where I explain the parser function over and over and over. Okay. Oh, you mean did the session earlier? Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it. The feedback is appreciated. No worries, guys. But thank you. We'll keep it in mind. Your feedback is always appreciated, always welcome. Okay. Now, let me see. Okay, sure, no problem. So let me see. Maybe you're lucky if I have it in there. Oh, yes. So this is naive base, right? It's in here. You guys are lucky I have it. Okay, so what is this? This is another notebook, and you will find it in your week in the course content, right? So it's in here. It's almost similar to what you have, and believe it or not, it should work. If you're doing it right, the code should work because I have it right in front of me, and it's the same copy of the notebook that is in the course content, right? And you can see the output. I'm showing you that it is a working version, okay? Let me see one message. The error is when I ran the code to explore data section 5, okay? Explore data, I'm going down, explore data. Oh, please make sure that you put this in for schema true. Please check, make sure that you put this in for schema. Oh, you did, okay. Okay, I would have to see the error, but it's in here. See this explore data, and I have it here, it's working. Okay, I have it working because you need to make sure that you ran all of your libraries and etc. Okay, explore data section 5. See this? It showed me the number of passengers, and here this one is showing you the number of passengers who survived, number of passengers who died, and here it adds another column, right? And it's showing you the if the person is a male or female, and here is more 3 columns. Okay. Oh, group by. Well, the thing is, this code is working, so you want to make sure that oh, another thing is that when you read the data, you need to rename this as _1, right? You have to do that because otherwise it's not gonna know what this is, what is data frame gf_1 is, okay? You want to do that. And then, well, if you want to, I can run it again, just as a proof of concept to show you that it's working. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put the notebook in the edit mode, and this is how you would rerun something. Okay, so this is gonna be in the edit mode right now. It's trying to switch. It's trying to start the kernel, right? And so suppose that you made some editing. What you would need to do is you would need to restart the kernel and clear all output. Okay, so. And another important key point is that before you upload the file, make sure that you didn't open it. Okay, so here it is. I loaded this, right? And I already did the bucket stuff here. I already did that, so I'm not gonna repeat this, right? Everything is good here so far. So this is what I'm gonna do I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this restart and clear output, restart and clear all outputs, right? So this is cleared, and we're gonna run it again just to see that it is working. And this is a copy, exact copy that is in a assignment folder. Oh, I mean course content. So I'm gonna run this now. See, play, play, play. Let's see what's gonna happen. Okay, waiting for the Spark session to start. Oh, I can just do this. And this is ungraded part, so that's why I can do this. But if this was the graded part, then I cannot do. But I'm not gonna run the whole thing, but I'm just gonna run to that part where we are doing explore data, just to show you that it was working, at least was. Okay, so this piece here. All right. So here it comes. No error so far. See that? So what you would need to check is, well, I'm not sure what the error is, but you want to make sure that you renamed the data frame correctly, right? Otherwise, it's not gonna know what this is. And also check, make sure that this thing works, the one that prints the count, okay? So if this is working, then you want to make sure that this one, oh, and make sure that you also ran this code over here to load the libraries, because you want to make sure that you imported, it's a pandas data frame. You want to make sure that you imported pandas data frame, okay? This one is important too, okay? The count is working. Oh, okay. But it prints, oh, okay. Oh, well, you need to check, make sure that you downloaded the correct file, because you don't remove the column headings from the actual file. That's the thing. You don't remove the first row from the actual file. You only remove it during the analysis, but you don't see if something is wrong with the file. Make sure, please go back to the classroom and download the correct file. Then it should work, because it sounds like your file does not have the, it sounds like your file does not have the column headers. Then it's gonna be a problem, because it's not gonna know, it's not gonna know where those columns are. Okay, it's not gonna know where those columns are. Yes, double check the source file, because sure, no problem. This is what it sounds like, okay? Yeah, because otherwise it's not gonna know what survived this, okay? But I just showed you that that code works, and if you're running it, all you'll need to do is just this block, right? Make sure you add enforce schema true, right? Make sure that it changes to _1, and then you run it and you're gonna get the results, right? Something similar, and it's gonna give you the it's gonna give you the model evaluation, and it's gonna give you the area under the rock curve. Okay, so this is a naive Bayes method. And if you have time, of course, well, I had in the past, especially when the counter did not work, I had students who, I've seen students implementing the naive Bayes method for the low burst weight data. It's based on the tickets and etc. Sometimes the students would go further and implement naive Bayes method for the low burst weight data. Well, you don't have to, but some people like to learn more, and if they have hours left, then I'm not gonna say no. I'm gonna say go ahead and do it. Yeah. All right. So I mean, yeah. So I showed you that the notebook is working. Okay. If we try different algorithm, do we need to submit the HTML? Well, you could just put the screenshots of the output. You don't have to. All you have to submit the HTML for is logistic regression. For the Titanic, uh, and for the low birth weight data. But if you want to, you could. But if you're discussing it in a paper, you want to include the screenshots of the output that you're referring to. Yeah. Well, but this is a plus. Yes, it adds value to the work that you're submitting, because you actually try to run it. You're showing that you went a little bit beyond. I mean, no guarantee, but it at least shows you that, well, you put more effort and you actually decided to take the example and you try to do comparison. Okay. Well, I'm just giving you more approaches where you can go a touch beyond. If you, especially if you're an A student, you might be wondering what it means to go beyond, and I'm showing you several ways where you could do this in this assignment if you have the hours left. Or you can also go in more depth on analysis, because if you read the assigned chapter, a lot of stuff on logistic regression is covered in that reading, right? Yeah. Oh, okay, including an appendix is a good idea too, but make sure that you submit a separate file for the HTML file for the Titanic and for the low birth weight, right, for logistic regression. So hopefully everybody knows how to count until 3, right? 3 files. Before you click submit, you need to attach 3 in the assignment folder. Okay, make sure that you attach all 3. Okay, no problem. Yes. But yes, if you have issues, you need to submit the case, and me and Linesh, we monitor it all the time, including weekends. We are aware that most of you do assignments on weekend, and I'm checking it multiple times during the weekend. And sometimes if you submit in the case at the time when I'm sitting at the computer, right, I can just respond. So you never know, right? It depends. It depends. Sometimes you're lucky, you get it quickly. Okay. But yeah, go ahead and ask questions now. The floor is open for questions. This is the what they call it, customer service. Okay. So go ahead, questions. And I guess in the meantime, Linesh, if you want to add something, go ahead. Linesh?
No, I think you covered it all. Yeah, I think you covered the main points here. So nothing more to add. Thank you.
And well, let's see what instructors have to add. Elena or Professor Ozan, anything you would like to add? Like anything that you might be looking for when you're looking at the assignment missions, or anything that you think that, well, some mistakes that people made in the past perhaps, or something where
Yeah, not the thing I can say is in the past, the folks make some mistakes on the, especially on the parse data area, as you guys emphasized the importance a couple of times. And thank you very much for the presentation, but I want to, emphasize one more time that everybody should be very careful, especially this parse data. Thank you.
sure. And Elena, do you want to say something? No? Well, more questions, guys? Well, this is your opportunity. This is your session, right? And I'm gonna give you the data and more advanced example. Well, and the reason it was not posted earlier because it is more advanced. Yes. And I wanted to make sure that you guys first grasp this and then go more in the depths, okay? Don't want to scare people. It's one step at a time, a bit at a time. Okay. So I guess if there are no questions, then I'm gonna stop sharing and you guys will look forward to recording as well as a notebook, right? That example. Oh, I'm so glad. You're the most welcome. Okay, most welcome.
Great session. Great session, Yelena. Thank you.
Sure, so I'm gonna do the stop sharing and I'm gonna stop the recording. Thank you all.
Great. Good night. Night all. Bye.